In today's world, many women spend a lot of money to change how they look, aiming for certain body features. But there's a sad and forgotten story hidden in this trend. The story of Sarah Bartman, also known as the Hottentot Venus. Her story shows a different kind of African slavery that we often don't talk about. This video tells us about Sarah Bartman's life, the woman famous for having big buttocks, and the terrible things she went through even after she died. We'll learn about her childhood in Africa, how she was used by others, and the unfair treatment she endured. A long time ago, in 1789, Sarah was born in Africa near the Gantus River in the Eastern Cape. But her early life was very hard. Her mother died when she was only 2 years old, and her father died when she was only a teenager. Her mom was from the Khoi tribe, the oldest tribe in South Africa. They were known for having lighter skin and bigger hips, which were seen as beautiful traits back then. Sarah inherited these traits from her mother. European colonizers in the 19th century noticed Sarah's unusual looks. Because of their unfair beliefs about race, they treated her like she wasn't fully human. This was the beginning of a terrible time for Sarah. When she became a teenager, she lost her parents and ended up working for a Dutch doctor and a Royal Navy member named William Dunlop. He bought Sarah from a farmer in Africa, and her life became even worse. Sarah had a unique body with big, well-rounded buttocks, which is called steatopygia. This meant she had a lot of fat on her buttocks and thighs, giving her a curvy shape. European colonizers found her appearance fascinating and used her vulnerability against her. Dunlop and his partner Hendrik Caesars, who was mixed race, tricked Sarah into signing a contract that turned her life into a nightmare. The contract promised Sarah wealth, but it was just a lie. Dunlop and Caesars took advantage of her appearance and put her on display in shows all over Europe, where people came to look at her like she was a strange creature. She was forced to wear revealing clothes and was treated like an object of curiosity. As Sarah's fame grew, she was sold to a man named Rowe in Paris in 1814. This happened because her case had gotten a lot of attention in court, where people tried to challenge Dunlop's contract, but they couldn't help her. Sarah's situation didn't get any better. In fact, it got worse. She was kept in a place called the Palais Royal in Paris, where she was treated even more poorly and had no control over her life. During this time, Sarah met Georges Cuvier, a famous French dentist, surgeon, and naturalist. Sadly, he thought Africans were closer to animals than humans, which was a terrible and wrong idea. He studied Sarah like she was a scientific specimen, taking away even more of her dignity. Over time, her health got worse, and she died when she was only 26 years old. Even after her death, Sarah's suffering didn't stop. Cuvier dissected her body for research, and her remains were put on display for people to see. Her exploitation continued, all in the name of science. It wasn't until 2022, more than 200 years later, that her remains were finally returned to South Africa after Nelson Mandela asked the French government to do so. Today, we remember Sarah Bartman as a sad symbol of Africa's past during colonial times. Her body was buried in Cape Town, and there's also a special place there in her memory. Her story reminds us of the terrible things that can happen when people are treated unfairly because of their looks or race. Her story shows how people can be treated horribly when beauty, race, and power come together. To wrap up, thinking about Sarah's life reminds us that we should never forget such terrible things that happened in the past. By sharing her story, we honor her and promise to stand against the unfair things that have hurt people in history. Let's learn from Sarah's pain and work together to make a world where everyone is treated fairly and with respect.